What up YouTube, BonzEye here, back for another review, and this is going to be my review of Arcane Season 2, Act 2. So yeah, first up I'd like to say that I definitely enjoyed this particular act a lot more than I did the first act, and I guess that's because I finally now know the reason why I didn't enjoy Jinx and Vi's storyline as much as I think I should have in Act 1, and that's because it was missing that sister-sibling dynamic that I particularly enjoyed in Season 1, and because it didn't really feel like it was there in Act 1, I didn't understand why it was, but I just felt like I wasn't enjoying their characters as much as I should have. But now that we got a lot of it in this particular act, I ended up enjoying their storyline a lot more, and so now I'm like, oh shit, okay, so that's what was missing. That's why I didn't enjoy their storyline as much. Because yeah, there was a lot there that I definitely enjoyed. Like some highlights for me was the moment where Vi sees Jinx and the other little girl starting to sort of vibe together and seeing how Jinx is taking care of her, and then she's sort of probably, at least in my mind, harkening back to when they were small and she used to take care of Jinx, right? And there's that probably regret in her and like wondering, what could have been if things had turned out differently. At least that's how I saw it. And so, seeing that sort of reflected in Vi, she didn't say anything out loud, but sort of see the doubt in her eyes and everything. I think that was a nice moment. And then for Jinx's part, she's someone who likes to talk about things out loud, right? And so she actually just straight up says it when she's like with the little girl. She's like, I like the changes that have happened to me now that you've been around, right? And just sort of acknowledges that she's sort of different and things are different with her. And I sort of like the character growth in both of them, seeing how, they're kind of missing each other, and obviously they both feel like there's something missing from their lives and sort of coming together again, right? And that also leads to that heartwarming scene where, Warwick, the vendor, whatever he is now, sort of realizes who they are, and he, stops from like attacking them, and they have that like moment at the end of episode 5, right? That was a very heart-touching moment, and leads me back to what happened earlier, right? When Jinx was fighting Warwick for the first time and they didn't know who each other was, and then I was genuinely curious about how Jinx would even get out of the situation, because like you could sort of see that Warwick was clearly beating her, and so I thought maybe the scientist guy would pop out and he would stop Warwick, right? But it turns out Warwick stopped himself when he saw Jinx and started to recall, and even me too, I didn't realize who Warwick was. Until like that moment where you get that close-up shot and you can sort of, I almost could kind of see it too, that hey, this looks like Vander, and it turns out it was Vander. And yeah, by the way, that's actually a nice surprise for me. So even though I did look into some of the lore of League of Legends, Leagues of Legends, I looked into like the lore of how the universe formed, right, with the Void and all of that, but I didn't learn anything about any of the recent happenings. So I didn't know that Warwick was going to turn out to be Vander. So that was a pleasant surprise for me, and I think it sort of cemented in my eyes that I think for this show, I usually am someone who likes to go back and research things after I watch a show about them, but I think I'm not gonna do that in this case, because that was a nice pleasant surprise for me, and I feel like if I want to get more moments like that, the best thing that I can do is sort of stay away from at least the character lore storylines for any of these characters, because that was like a nice surprise. And yeah, all of the moments that happened with like them reuniting and also learning Vander's backstory, right? And I actually didn't know that Vander knew them before he adopted them on the bridge. I don't know if it was mentioned in season 1, but it just kind of slipped my mind. So seeing that whole backstory of them in the bar and him meeting the two girls' mother, I mean, he already knew her at that point, and Silco was there as well, seeing the dynamic between those three and learning that he was the one that actually named Violet. Like there's a lot of like moments there that just sort of felt great. And I guess it goes to show that like even though I'm someone who cares more about lore and magic and stuff like that, character moments like that too are very fun and enjoyable for me. And because it was done so well, yeah, that's kind of my favorite aspect of this act, was just those two, their whole dynamic and everything with Vander, and just everything around them. So yeah, favorite aspect of this act was all of that. My second favorite part, which actually kind of left me disappointed, was the whole stuff involving Jace and Victor, right? I've already mentioned, in this video and in the first one that I did, that I like learning about magic and seeing how the magic system works. And Jace and Victor are the two characters that you learn the most about the magic of this world through, right? Them and Heiminder. So like, they're definitely following that whole storyline is, well, I think overall that's the more interesting storyline for me. But I have to say that I was really disappointed by how that all seemingly ended, right? I mean, I don't know if Victor's dead. I really hope he's not, because I want more from his character. I really feel like there was more that could be plotted out with that character and explored with that character. And I was learning more about the magic in this world through him. right? But then that happened, and now I don't know what's going to happen with that. And sad to see his community go. I don't normally like hippies, but it was kind of interesting seeing, because it wasn't like they were regular hippies, and it was almost like they were a hive mind, but they also weren't the hive mind. I mean, I don't know how to say it, but that was all interesting. Also, Jace, I really am curious what happened to him when he was in there, what caused him to change his mind so much, and also obviously Heiminger and Epco, right? Obviously, when they come out of there eventually, will they have the same perspective that Jace did? Would they agree with him, or would they not? Like, would they be different? Like that all is interesting to me, and yeah, just in general, I just want to know what happens in that regard. And then the other aspect, less on the magic side and more on the political intrigue side that I'm interested in, and that I've been enjoying, was the whole stuff with like Mel and her mother, right? And this time I think I enjoyed Mel a lot more than I enjoyed her mother, right? Because you had her being trapped in that place and sort of trying to figure her way out, and also meeting her brother, right? Whoever that was, and sort of like to me, I mentioned in my first Act 1 review that I was curious about where the brother was, who he was, how he died, and all that. And so I thought I was going to get some answers here. Turned out it was just like screwing with us, or screwing with Mel. And so that was interesting and sad and everything at the same time. I almost thought I would get some answers there. But either way, I'm happy. But either way, like, I am intrigued, still intrigued by what's going to happen next. And also there was that sort of, what do you call it, cliffhanger or something about the thing Black Rose calling Mel's sister, right? So like, is it related to her somehow? What is it? Is it their long lost sibling, or is it actually their brother that actually is the Black Rose? Like, I don't know. I have like all these theories now, and I don't want to get spoilers for it, because I'd rather find out, the same way I did with Vanda. But yeah, I am definitely intrigued by that whole aspect of Black Rose and everything. And yeah, Ambrosia too was like, well, Ambrosia didn't necessarily do anything that impressed me in this episode, and if anything, I was disappointed that she didn't see Caitlyn betraying her. The whole shebang, and like, come on, I could see that coming a mile away myself. So kind of disappointing on that part there. I did feel kind of sad for her when her guy died, her top bodyguard or whatever. He seemed kind of a cool character. I thought he'd be around for longer. And yeah, I felt for her when she was like crying for him. I think in general, the Noxians are my favorite faction, right? Like, they're kind of like a side faction in the show right now, but they're the faction that I enjoy the most, that I want to learn the most. And that's why I'm looking forward to the political intrigue stuff that's happening between Mel and Mother, because just in general, I want to know more about where they come from, because they seem like such a cool faction to me personally. So yeah, I think the only character that I'm kind of still stumped on right now is Caitlyn, right? She hasn't done anything that annoys me, but she hasn't done anything to impress me or anything like that. And I don't feel any emotional attachment. There's no intrigue to her. There's no magic to her. So like, I'm just kind of meh on her character right now, as far as everything goes. But other than that, I think everything else about the show I've been thoroughly enjoying. So I think with that, I'll give my review, or my rating now, I should say, for this Act 2. And yeah, so my rating for Act 2 of Arcane Season 2 would probably be a solid 8 out of 10. Yeah, it's gone past the good now into like great, right? I think it's like a great show. There's still some tweaks and stuff that they could do here to bring it up to like a 9. And I don't know, nothing gets over 9 for me. But yeah, I think right now it's just like one step closer from as good as I think a show can get. There's no such thing as a 10 out of 10 show for me. So a 9 is as good you're ever gonna get, maybe even 9.5. But yeah, this show is like a few steps away from being like really, really enjoyable for me. And yeah, I think that's where I'll end this review. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like the video if you like the video. If you agree or disagree, don't forget to comment down below. And if you want to stay in touch to see my eventual reaction, my eventual review of Act 3, and I guess the whole season as a whole, you can subscribe to my channel to stay in touch for that. But for now, I'm going to end this one. This is BonzEye signing out. Catch you all later.